Today, I thought we could have a cozy planning session where I can show you how I've been using my Hobonichi A6 techo and weekly supplement for all of my planning needs and some of my health and wellness tracker. Discovering Hobonichi really helped me evolve my planning system so that it could work even better for me, especially after receiving my ADHD diagnosis, which really helped put a lot of challenges that I'd been having into context. So in today's video, I want to show you how I've been using this system to help me function. And as a disclaimer, I want to acknowledge that anyone with ADHD has their own unique experience, and what works for me may not work for you. I just want to come at this from a perspective of sharing what has worked for me in case some of this might be helpful for you if you find yourself struggling with some of the same challenges that I was struggling with before this system really helped me to tackle that. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, then I invite you to grab yourself a tea, coffee, whatever beverage of choice, and something cozy to keep you company, or maybe a planner to do some planning for the week while we hang out and have a planning session. My drink of choice right now is a hot water, and my snack of choice is a rich tea biscuit. I wanted to share a bit more context before I dive into planning, just in case you're new to my channel. As someone with ADHD, I really need my planning to be simple and forgiving, and just enough structure to keep me consistent when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. So I know that bullet journaling has received a lot of attention for being useful for helping manage ADHD symptoms. And I did try that system many years ago, and I think there's a lot of really great things about it. I think it's very agile, and I do really love the task management side of bullet journaling, where you write down all the tasks you need to do, and then you repeatedly write them down each day until you get them finished. So I know I'm simplifying the bullet journaling system a little bit, but I do want to acknowledge that has been really helpful in shaping my own planning process. However, after doing that for several years, I realized that I just needed a little bit more structure, and I needed a different way to be able to capture forward, future-facing events, because the way that Ryder Carroll approaches future events, I tried it, but it just didn't quite work for me. In addition to that, something that I really struggle with is time blindness. And it was the vertical weekly in The Cousin that was the first time I tried to lay out my day on paper in that way. And I know that that is not a revolutionary thing, but it was revolutionary for me. And it really took my planning from being something that just helped me remember things to do to being much more proactive in helping me manage some of the challenges that come with my ADHD symptoms. This is basically my planning system. Because I know I'll probably get questions, this is an A6 leather portfolio that was a collaboration between Wonder Pens and the Superior Labor. So I've had this for about a year now, and I've been using it every day since I got it. And it's hard to tell against something like the light brown, but this has patinaed quite a bit since I got it. Inside, I have, there's a flap on the back side of this, and then there's sort of a main pocket area. So I keep my A6 Techo Original in this main section, and I just use a Midori A6 clear cover to protect the book. And then I have my one pen. This is my Pilot Vanishing Point in a fine nib. So this is what I use for planning. And then I have my weekly supplement, And then I just have a sticker release insert, and I have a Hobonichi A6 folder, and here's where I have all of my transfer stickers. So I try to keep things slim in here, so I like using my transfer stickers, if I use them at all, in something like this, because then it's less likely to bulk up my planner. So yeah, this is my system for this year, and before I get into the planning session, I just want to give you a little more context into the ADHD pain points or challenges that I experience and that has shaped how I use my planners. The first is I'm extremely forgetful. I can't be the only person who's forgetful, but my forgetfulness is next level, and I need a lot of space to be able to just write things down as soon as they come to my mind. So that's why I appreciate having something like this that has a lot of room for adding notes. I get overwhelmed really easily. So when I'm feeling really motivated and I feel like I'm on top of things, and with that traditional bullet journaling style where you're just using blank pages and you're dating them as you need to, that works fine when I'm motivated. But when things get really chaotic and busy, sometimes even the act of having to date a new page just feels like too much for me, and it can result in me completely abandoning using the book. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but that's just what I've experienced. And so having something that is predated has really been a game changer for me, which is why I lean on it so much. I tend to struggle with consistency. So having things that are predated kind of sets me up with just enough structure that when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed and I'm starting to resist the structure that I've created for myself, there's just enough here to keep me on track. I also tend to really struggle with time blindness. And so while writing out your tasks works really well, I was still kind of having trouble prioritizing my day and managing my energy when I was just using something like this. And so when I discovered Hobonichi, I actually used a cousin first, and it was the weekly vertical that was a real game changer for me, because it allowed me to put all my appointments and meetings within the context of the week. And it would give me an extra visual to allow me to realize like what pockets of time I had that I could potentially do work, or it would allow me to see which days were probably going to be more demanding in terms of energy. So I may want to schedule certain tasks on different days because I'm probably not going to be able to get them done on a day where I have a lot going on. I also have a need to free up mental space, or I often struggle with like working memory deficits, I guess, and therefore I just need a lot of room. I mean, this is really similar to like being forgetful. I think it's kind of similar, but having this room to dump things or plan things like my meals just allows me to have it written down so that I can kind of remove it from my working memory and then refocus that onto something else. So I was never a meal planner, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about like why I meal plan in the way that I do, because I do have a lot of videos about that. I don't want to bore you with the details, but the short explanation is meal planning for me is just a way to set up a plan ahead of time so that I don't even have to like worry about it or think about it. And the amount of time it takes for me to meal plan for 2 weeks at a time frees up a lot of working memory space in my brain so that I can then focus on other things throughout the week, and I don't have to spend any time fussing about what we need to do for dinner. And I want to acknowledge that some other people might be able to do this type of thing without even needing to write anything down. If I were able to do that, then I probably wouldn't need to do meal planning in the first place. But because I recognize that that is a challenge for me. Having it laid out like this has been a really nice way for it to not overwhelm me. So this is almost like a preventative measure so that I don't get overwhelmed with meal planning in general. Okay, so I think those are all the challenges that I wanted to talk about. In terms of planning, I don't really do a lot of daily planning. Sometimes I'll just do this 2 days in advance, and I'll just write out my meetings. And my to-do list. And I very rarely fill this out in advance because meetings are always changing, sometimes even the day before. So I'd rather not really write anything down here until the actual day, because this is more for like energy management, future planning, and then this is just more for keeping me on top of things for the actual day. So the morning of, I will open up my digital calendar just in case any meetings have been added to my calendar since I made this outline. And I'll just add anything that I have coming up that are meetings where I can't move them around. And then I will double check the day before. Anything that I didn't get done, I'll move them over to here so I can remember, and then I will add anything else that I want to do for that day. Having this space to sort of brain dump anything that I want to do is really helpful so that I don't lose track of them. And this is not something that I came up with on my own. This is something that I evolved from the bullet journaling system. Up here, you can just see this is an example of how I use this upper section. So in this particular example, we had to give Coconut a pretty specific schedule of medication, and it was one of those things where we had to slowly taper off over time. So I just wrote the actual like medication schedule up here so that every day I did it all in advance, so that every day I would know what to do for that day. So this is one of the ways that I like having that future planning set up, because otherwise I would have written out his entire medication schedule just on maybe one page, and then I would always have to reference that one page. But doing it this way, just having everything predated, allows me to write everything out so that I've done the thinking, and when the day comes, I can just look at this pre-work that I've done and know exactly what to give Coconut. So again, that sort of frees up that working space, which is why I like having dated pages so much. Another thing that I'll do in the morning is I will fill out my habits for the day. So I've already done most of them for Wednesday, but I will kind of do this throughout the day. So that's why I have a tab here. I used to have a separate Hobonichi weeks for this, but I've been just using my Sunday of the week to create the trackers for the upcoming week. And I have been finding that has worked out really well. So this is something that I will continue for the rest of the year, and I'm going to carry on with me to next year. Okay, so I'm actually not going to do anything on these pages because I don't really have anything to add for now, but hopefully you get the idea from some of these other examples of how I use these pages. Maybe I can set up one of the trackers. It's a little early, but normally I would do this on Sunday night, but to demonstrate how I do this, I'll set it up. And I always have to check this because I don't have the greatest memory. Almost forgot to mention, I have been using a permanent ink in my Pilot Vanishing Point. It's my preference so that if I need to, I can highlight things after the fact. So, for example, this is a really long note that I was taking while I was on the phone with my vet. And because I'm just using the one ink, I just want to find a way to be able to highlight anything that's really important. So again, over here, I took a really long note that started here and continued on here. But the thing that I really needed to remember was the new schedule for medication. So I just highlighted that in green, and I just find it so much easier when I have an ink that I can highlight over. So this ink right now is a mix of Diamine Forever inks. I did pick up 3 of the new Forever inks, Butterscotch, Red Ochre, and Smoky Mauve. I did want to get samples, but I found them difficult to get in Canada. So I just went ahead and bought the bottles of the ink colors that I was the most interested in. I find the butterscotch is just a little too light. The red ochre is just a little too red. So I tried mixing the two to see what I thought, and this is what it looks like. I don't think this is quite the color that I was hoping for, so I'll have to do a little more experimenting. I've also used Diatramentis Urban Sienna. That's another one of my favorite browns, and that is also waterproof, so you can highlight over it. So I'm going to let this dry and set, and then I will add my highlighter. I'll come back to that because sometimes I just want to give it a little more time to dry, otherwise it will smear a little bit. So now I'm going to move on to my meal planning. So I tend to plan 2 weeks out in advance, and I use the bottom of my weekly supplement just to write down what I think I'll make. And you can also see that I haven't even written out the timeline. So the weekly supplement has a timeline that comes with the supplement where it starts at 8 a.m. and it allocates 1 square per hour of the day. And I just found over time that I needed a little more room because having 2 squares to an hour allows me to more easily time block half-an-hour meetings or meetings that start half past a little more easily. So I just used a Posca marker to white out all of the original dates, and that was a tip that I picked up from Tori on paper. And then once that dries, I will renumber the timeline. And last year I just went ahead and I renumbered them all at once, but this year I kind of just did chunks at a time. So it is a little bit of extra work, but it doesn't take too long to do. So I'll just I'll do that now, and I'll do that in real time so you can see. Yeah, so it didn't take too long. I just do it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. because most of this is used for work planning, and I don't typically want to be doing work past 8 o'clock. If I have evening plans, that's a different story, if it's fun plans, but I try not to do anything too late. The other thing that I will do is I'll just add in the days of the week in pen. And I'll just grab that just in case. I'll add the Friday in later. I'm just covering up a friend's name. Sometimes when I have like future events. I will put them on the side here just in case that impacts my schedule in some way. I haven't added anything for now. When it comes to meal planning, I did this in my Hobonichi weeks when I was using my weeks for meal planning, but since moving everything into these two books, I've moved my favorite recipes into this list. So I just have things categorized by season, and I just like having this because there are certain meals that are always top of mind and I make all the time, and then there are other meals that I tend to forget about, and I like having this list to remind me if there's something that I might have forgotten about. Something that I also do when I'm meal planning is I will make a list of what we have. But to be honest with you, I don't always really rely on this anymore because we have been doing this for so long that I have internalized most of the things that we have and they become staple items. So even if we are running low on things, it's usually there's a certain cadence that we'll go back and pick things up. So for example, usually what we have, I'll make a mental note of like proteins that I have because that usually helps me determine what kind of meal I'm going to make. And sometimes I'll also write down meal ideas. And this is something that I will do together with my partner. I'll just ask him if there's anything that he's craving. But since I'm doing this right now in the middle of the day, I'm just going to take the lead and decide what we're going to have for the next 2 weeks. So this is again where my 100 list will come in handy. Now that it's kind of getting colder outside and it's feeling more autumnal, I'm actually going to refer back to this list and see if there's anything here that I want to make. And right away, I'm seeing pumpkin curry and pumpkin soup. So I'm feeling like we might be returning to making more soups and curries and things like that. So I'm definitely going to put a curry on the list. And I actually am seeing here this yellow noodle stir fry. This is something that I go through phases with where I'll make it often and I'll remember to buy the yellow noodles when we go grocery shopping. But if this doesn't make the shopping list, I won't think to buy it on my own. So I'm just going to put that as a meal because that's one of my favorite meals to cook and eat. And I'm also looking at the winter here because I have a lot more soups and curries in here as well. So usually I try to pick about 6 meals. I find that that's generally enough for us. All right, I've picked my meals. So now I'm going to take the meals that I have in mind and I'm going to roughly put them out here. And I'll look ahead at my schedule to see if I have any things that will impact the cooking schedule. And right away I can see that I have a few events on next week that will definitely impact the meals. So I usually color code events depending on like different categories. So one is like work stuff and one is more life stuff. So for example, on Wednesday, I have a meeting at 5:30. So if I can help it, I won't cook on this night. I'll make this a leftovers night. On Thursday, I have a meeting from 4:30 to 5:30. And obviously I have more meetings during the day, but I'm just focusing on the evening ones. And this is... Okay, so what I can see here is that we're going to be going out for dinner these 2 nights. So I actually only need to plan to cook for these 2 nights. And usually whatever we have on Sunday is a leftover the following week. So I'm going to start by saying leftovers pizza, which is Sunday's meal. And then on the Monday, I think I'll make the yellow noodles because we usually buy those fresh, so I would like to make them right away. I'll do it with chicken. So then I can either do leftovers from Monday on Wednesday, or I can cook and then we can do leftovers on Thursday, Friday. So I think despite the fact that I'll be working a little bit late on Wednesday, I still think I might just cook anyway. And then I know leftovers. Okay, so that's 1 week planned. So the thing is, since we're going out Saturday and Sunday, we probably won't have leftovers in the following week. Just looking ahead, I do have a meeting at 5 on Tuesday and on Thursday. And we have dinner plans that Sunday. Okay, so that means on Monday, I think I'll do curry. And then I think since we won't have leftovers, we can either do, I think I'll just cook again and I'll do sheet pan japchae, which is one of my favorite recipes for this year. Terrible Hime shared this recipe with me. It's from the New York Times, and it's so easy, it's so delicious. So I haven't made it in a while because I forgot about it, but it's really fast and really easy and delicious. So then on Wednesday we'll do leftovers, curry. Thursday we'll do leftovers. And then Friday we'll cook something. And then on Saturday we'll do leftovers. And then Sunday we'll be out. Okay, great. So I've done my meal plan for the next 2 weeks. I don't have to think about it again until the day of when I'm doing the cooking, which is great. So now I can just do my shopping list. And sometimes if there are things that I need to remember to get throughout the week, I'll add to this, but I didn't add anything to it for this week yet. And at this point, I know what I like to put in these recipes. It's not really like a specific recipe so much as I have an idea of flavor in mind, a protein in mind, and then whatever vegetable I think might taste nice. So like this was an original recipe that had a very prescriptive set of vegetables, and I don't follow that anymore. I just remember, oh, it's turkey that might be flavored with this kind of sauce, and then if I'm at the grocery store and I see that broccoli looks really good, then I'll just buy that in mind for the turkey. So I don't know if that makes sense, but when I first started meal planning, I was a lot more particular about following recipes to a T because I was less confident about cooking in general. But now I feel it's a little more like just making sure that I have the right spices, making sure that I have the protein in mind, and then whatever vegetable calls out to us. We have some staple vegetables, and then occasionally we will just see what's looking really good at the store and incorporate that into the meal. So yeah, so this will remind me to look into things like rice vinegar, hoisin sauce, that type of thing, if I know that I might need that flavor in my meal. And on that note, I'm actually going to put soy sauce because I think I need more soon. I definitely need to get sweet potato noodles. I need potatoes for the curry, carrots. And then I'll also think about what I want to do for lunches, and I'll also add to the shopping list for that. So my lunches are pretty standard. I tend to just pick one thing and I'll kind of eat it throughout the week. So if, for example, I'm having salad for lunch and I think my protein will be tofu, then I'll just make sure that I add tofu to the list so that I have that ready to go. And I think I'm running low on salad dressing, so I'm just going to put that here. I keep meaning to make my own salad dressing, but sometimes I just want something fast and ready for me. And I did go through a phase where I was pre-making my salad dressing for the week, but I don't know. Sometimes I just want to have something ready to go. So I'll just put that there. And this is also very much like a brain dump kind of shopping list. It's not organized by fruit, veg, dairy, that kind of thing. It's just anything that comes to mind. I think we're done with the meal planning. Now I'm just going to add my highlights to this because I think it'll be dry now. Okay, so that's all I do for setting up my trackers. And then I don't do this all the time. I guess this isn't really so much planning, but occasionally I'm on my phone now, so I can't do this, but I'll check my phone and I'll catch up on my steps and my exercise. So I'll do that offline. And then I'll update my year at a glance trackers. So really going back to my different Sundays here and just filling in the information into these 3 year at a glance so I can kind of keep this up to date. So I don't update this on a daily basis or even a weekly basis sometimes. I just want to keep it real. In an ideal world, I would keep this updated more regularly, but it's one of those things where I don't need to refer to this every day. It's more of a long-term trending thing or something that I will take with me if I'm describing symptoms to my doctor. So I just keep this updated as much as possible, and especially before a doctor's appointment, but it's not every day and it's not even weekly sometimes. So yeah, I will do this off camera as well. Yeah, so that's everything in my planning. Hope you enjoyed this realistic, messy planning session. I would love it if my pages were beautiful and had really nice layouts. This might be super cringy to show on the internet how messy this is, but it's so functional for me, and even if it doesn't look that great, it has really helped improve things for me because having everything laid out, having a place to just dump everything that I need to do, being able to see everything visually helps me manage my stress levels as well, and it really helps me prioritize what I need to do. And also it helps me prioritize my energy expenditure because even if I see that I have a 1-hour block in between meetings, I've come to learn about myself that that's not always enough time to start a task. So it just helps me be more realistic about what I think I can actually accomplish in a day. Or it gives me a nudge to say, well, in this 1 hour, I could maybe respond to emails, but I couldn't sit down and make progress on like a work plan or like a research plan. So I just find that really helpful. And then again, just having this notes page, I do feel sometimes like I could use more room because when I'm taking notes, I'm just messy and I sometimes just need a lot more space. So that is something I'm thinking about for next year, but I will save that for another video. I'm curious what type of planner you are. Are you more of a decorative planner, messy planner? Are you more structured? Do you prefer less structure? I know For some, pre-decorating pages can really help with motivation, and it can make you look forward to opening up your book and using it. I think if I did have the maybe energy to pre-decorate my pages, I probably would, because I do think it makes a difference to have something on the page. I think there's something about the blank page that really intimidates me, and having the color and the grids and the pre-dates and just stuff, even the quotes, like I think that all helps in a way. It gives me a sense of the page is already started, so I don't have to, I don't know, I just don't have that blank page anxiety that I seem to struggle with. So, all right, well, that's everything I wanted to share with you today. If you're still with me to the end of this video, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope it was a cozy, productive planning session. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.